Welcome to episode 9 of Two Please. I'm your host, Abhin.
I'm your co-host, Rohit.
That's one way to make make an opening statement. On this week's episode, we'll be taking a look at the man who would be king, Bollywood's one and only superstar, Shahrukh Khan. Actually, I can't say one and only. He is one amongst the many superstars, but probably the biggest superstar of the last 20 to 30 years, Shahrukh Khan.
And because he's had such a successful career, I mean, if you look at the number of big money movies that his career is peppered with, it's really hard to cover all of it within, say, an hour or even an hour and a half. So I kind of had to be a little choosy and pick a certain period. What we've done is we're looking at his movies from the years 1997 to 2001, because this is, in my opinion, the time just before and around when, it was Shahrukh at the height of his powers, when he got the name King Khan. So, which is why we're calling it the man who would be king.
So just like Rohit mentioned, that period was essentially the start of his dominance in the industry for years to come. Funnily enough, both our favorite Shahrukh Khan movies aren't on this list, but we'll mention them to you as we get started with this podcast. So I think without further ado, let's take this forward. Let's get on with the show.
कहते हैं अगर किसी चीज को दिल से चाहो तो पूरी कायनात उसे तुमसे मिलाने की कोशिश में लग जाती है. कभी-कभी जीतने के लिए कुछ हारना भी पड़ता है और हार कर जीतने वाले को बाजीगर कहते हैं. नहीं सेन्योरिटा, कोई बात नहीं. बड़े बड़े देशों में ऐसी छोटी छोटी बातें होती रहती हैं. हम तो पीते हैं कि यहाँ पर बैठ सके. आज अगर ये तुझे प्यार करती है तो ये पलट के देखेगी. अब मैं उसे कैसे महसूस करवाऊं कि 1000 क्रिस मिलकर भी उसे इतना प्यार नहीं दे सकते जितना मैं उसे दे सकता हूं.
So, if you grew up in India at any point during the last 60 years, I would say, chances are you've probably heard of Shahrukh Khan. Initially starting off as a theater actor, then moving into television. Funnily enough, his debut was a Arundhati Roy movie called When Annie Gives It Those Ones. And then eventually he moved on. He got cast in Fauji. He was also in Circus with Ashutosh Gowarikar at the time, who's been a lifelong friend of his. And eventually started to break into more of the Yash Raj films. 93, Dar and Bazigar being his breakout roles. So I was doing a bit of research, by which I mean I was doing a bit of research with talking to the people who are around in 93, 94 and who actually remember things, because I was 2, maybe 3. And so I spoke to my mom about this, and mom said, when Bazigar came out, that was truly when his star rose. Like that was when the Shahrukh Khan frenzy began. She wasn't really caught by the whole King Khan charm until 98 when Kushrota happened, and it was just this explosion that took the nation by storm. I just kind of want to start with you and get your opinions on Shahrukh Khan, his movie career, and before we jump into that core years where he rose to stardom, what is your opinion today on him, and has it changed in the last 15-20 years?
I'm not a huge Shahrukh Khan fan. At least I wouldn't call myself a fan. I respect the success he's had, and clearly acting prowess is, that aside, he's taken smart decisions. He's been very intelligent about his career. And even if you listen to him talk, you listen to his interviews, what clearly comes across is he's a very articulate, deliberate, well thought out individual. So on all those fronts, great. In terms of his acting performances, I never really kind of vibe with the charm or the energy which he had. And in fact, I would say post the core period that we're talking about, which is somewhere around Devdas, especially Devdas. I mean, he's overacted the hell out of it. Like, he could start a factory with all that ham he's got on screen. So, uh, I remember that period, me being like, this guy's just overdoing it, and it kind of put me off. Then again, and Swades was one where for me, it was a refreshing standout from the rest of his movies, because in that sense, he wasn't overdoing it. It was very natural. And later years, you have movies. I remember Chak De India, My Name is Khan. Again, flashes of overdoing it, but otherwise, he's kind of sobered down. He's playing more his age. I haven't really watched his movies. I think Chennai Express was the last SRK movie that I properly watched end to end. After that, I haven't really followed any other movie that he's done. But I mean, all said and done, detractors apart, nobody can deny that the kind of movie career he's had is enviable and right up there with some of the biggest successful runs in world cinema, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the funny thing you mentioned, his hamming, like I remember, because Devdas is a masterclass in hamming, but he was worse in the 90s, I would say, in Ram Jaane, and like there are a bunch of them, but it's atrociously bad. And Sajid Khan, he used to host a show. I forget, the name escapes me.
I remember watching that show. It was like a Coffee with Karan types, right? Like
not even a coffee with. No, he would basically break down films. So Sajid Khan, who is a dickhead, but also happens to have made films like Hum Shakals and what is the remake of the Jitendra movie that Himmatwala, yes. Like, he's made some absolute stinkers. A lot of people don't know that Sajid Khan grew up watching Fellini, grew up watching a lot of European cinema.
You couldn't tell from his movies.
Yeah, you couldn't. He's a walking encyclopedia on film. And because of that, and also because of like family influence, I suppose, he hosted a show where every week he would break down a ham scene of the week, and Shahrukh Khan featured on that segment of the show so often. It's all on YouTube. If you just like go search YouTube Sajid Khan ham scene of the week, you'll get like a whole plethora of them. Shahrukh Khan in Trishul, Shahrukh Khan in Chahat, Shahrukh Khan. There are like so many of them where he's like.
I mean, in SRK's defense, that late 90s to 2000 period was like everybody was doing it. I think before we dive into 97 to 2001, that period, I'm sure there are two movies we absolutely have to talk about. One, because it is DDLJ, and the other one is, if I'm not mistaken, both mine and Abhin's favorite Shah Rukh Khan movie.
Yeah.
So which one do you want to take first?
Let's do DDLJ, and let's keep like our listener base in suspense for the next 3 to 4 minutes. Look at us, two average Hitchcocks. DDLJ's thoughts. Longest running Hindi movie in theaters, thanks to Maratha Mandir. Maratha Mandir only, right?
DDLJ has been going on longer than my younger brother.
See, it was a movie that at the time tried to balance youth sensibilities, but also keep alluding back to the cultural aspect of like that the Indians hold so dear. It was like, oh, we are young and we're like running through Switzerland, but I won't sleep with you because we're not married yet. And then it's like, I won't run away with you because I want your father's blessing. So it was imparting core values that the Indian households held so dear back in the day, while also like adopting this fresh outlook on the Indian youth. And just, it somehow worked. It worked really well. I enjoy the first hour of the film, maybe the first hour and 10 minutes, because it is a fun ride. Then it eventually, when it sinks into melodrama, and then it just gets it starts to get long-winded. And it goes. I mean, it's a traditional Bollywood. What do you call it? It's all the notes you need in a traditional Bollywood rom-com. Not even a rom-com. Is it a romedy, or is it a rom-com? What would you classify it as?
I think more romedy, especially the second half of the movie is just.
Yeah.
And I think 2 points that you that I had in mind. One, again, taking off from what you said, I think it represented the dichotomy that Indian youth had to sort of balance. And I think it also resonated more with people because 95 was maybe what 3-4 years after like our economy opened up. We were exposed to a lot more foreign influences. People were traveling a lot more. Like accessibility to funds and like trying new things was still new. So the youth, people who were growing up, I think in that decade could definitely relate to, wanting to get out, have new experiences. But your parents are still stuck in a previous era.
Yeah.
And when you come back home, you have that sort of I don't want to, there's no other way to put it. The sort of stifling the stifling Indian household, for lack of a better term. But I think it showed that really well and it resonated with people. The other thing being, I think they showed expat Indian parents really well. Like, like my dad was in the US, so when I had visited, I had met some of his friends there who, like, their entire family stay there, not just the dad or not just the father. So whenever I met them, like there's nobody more Indian than Indians not living in India.
Trust me on this. Like I have met, I have probably had a more recent interaction with them. They double down on the whole cultural aspect, and I'm probably not going to like. This is a blanket statement, and if I do have certain Indian friends who did grow up in the States, I don't think I've seen anybody dress as badly as Indians who grew up in the US. It's like all their sense of fashion is borrowed directly from the house of Padma Patil and Parvati Patil in in the Goblet of Fire, and it's not their fault because you realize what they have to play with, and it's very very jang, very out there kind of fashion that exists when it comes to ethnic wear. So bizarre, but anyway, that's a conversation for a different day. But yeah, back to
Indian parents, like they'll have Gayatri Mantra as their ringtone.
Oh, dude, yeah, oh my God,
unmissed temple visits every weekend. They're volunteering, and like wow. So yeah, I think DDLC got that also bang on. Like, and I think I agree with you. The first 1 hour is fun. Once shit starts getting real, you're just like, yeah, cool. I'm checking out. I had my fun. Tata bye bye.
Great soundtrack though. The soundtrack has lasted. I think is probably the one that hasn't aged. Because
and I think Shahrukh's career generally has benefited from a ton of great music in all of his movies. I think they played a big role in people remembering those movies even today.
But him standing in that in the rice field, right? He's standing in a rice field.
Some field.
Yeah, he's in the field. He's in the kith, and in the leather jacket with a mandolin, and I think that immortalized him generally because if he hadn't had another hit after that, he would always be remembered for that role. And I think in large parts, him and Kajol are remembered for that role.
Can you imagine the number of discarded mandolins the next year? People who bought it, tried to learn it, and then failed, gave up.
Yeah.
My God, must have crashed. Like mandolin industry must have crashed. Okay, coming to our favorite movie, which is drum roll.
Yeah, so I mentioned I was in Goa when I watched Dekho 2000 on an airport. My favorite Shahrukh Khan movie also takes place in Goa. It is Kundan Shah's Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na that came out in 95. No, it was a year before 94.
Yeah.
That
94, 95.
Yeah, and it tells the story of a guy named Sunil who's in love with a girl named Anna, and that is basically the crux of the story. There's a lot happening around. He's having issues with his father. He's having issues with his bandmates. There's a conflicting love story with one of his friends played by Deepak Tijori. It is probably like one of my most heartwarming watches. Like this should have been on the feel good episode because every time I watch Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na, it is a real feel good movie.
In retrospect, it was a bad miss.
Yeah, it was a bad miss. I think we should have both put that on there. I don't know why we didn't. Funny, and it holds up because last year Rohit and I watched this during the first lockdown wave. We had like a whole Netflix party, and it was such a blast. There's a whole half the catalog of songs are lifted from other popular
Boney M.
Yeah, Boney M. There's like
Boney M. There's others also, I think.
Yeah, there's of course Inzire, which you sent me.
Yeah.
Inzire,
and, yes.
Yeah. So there are quite a few songs that have been lifted from
Jatin Lalit went shopping.
Yeah, exactly. As parampara, beta, parampara. As Amitabh Bachchan alludes in a much later movie. So yeah, Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na, probably my favorite Shahrukh Khan performance, especially when he was, and it's just so genuine. It's such a heartfelt movie, and it's like it is probably, maybe spoiler alert. Should we put a spoiler alert for this?
Oh, you're saying how it ends?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Spoiler alert. What? 1 minute.
1 minute. Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah. So this is you've been warned. So this is one of the rare movies where he doesn't end up with the girl. And this was before it was pre-written in his clause that okay, I am King Khan. I will always end up with the girl. He jokingly made this point in the AIB podcast. He said, "I am king. Don't involve me with anything else. I get the girl. I ride off into the sunset. That is my story arc." And this is one of the rare instances where he doesn't end up getting the girl, and it seems like a very normal thing. It wasn't like they tried to push it. And usually in Bollywood films, they try and force that narrative. There are other, like the other films like Ikme or Iktu, which also end similarly. And it's nice. It's always nice when a film doesn't like push the two leads down your throat as, oh, they are meant to be together. They're meant to be together. Even though you feel bad for him, he's like, you can sense that there's hope for him along the way, where he ends up meeting Juhi Chawla, and like it's just like it's obviously an open-ended ending. Very sweet film. Still my favorite Shahrukh Khan movie of all time.
Yeah, I think mine too, and like by quite a margin. And I think it's still my comfort Hindi movie. Anytime I want to watch something that assuredly will make me feel happy, I'll have a good time, I always fall back on Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na. Like Abhin said, it's set in Goa, and like everyone's nice. The story moves along very easily, and again, I don't know, this is more of an outsider in perspective, but to me it feels like it represents the Goa culture, like, laid back and like chill and jolly kind of people that at least we've encountered whenever we've gone there. It kind of represents that well.
I believe the term is Susagad.
Oh,
that's the term apparently. It's like a laid back lifestyle, Susagad.
Oh, okay.
Way of living.
Yeah. So I think it does represent that way of living well. And I think it's probably his most endearing role. For me, I would say it's tied between probably this and Yes Boss, where it's Shahrukh at his most endearing, and you feel for the character, you root for him very strongly. He is throughout the movie, in fact throughout both those movies, he's a massive underdog. So you have that spin on it as well. Generally the audience tends to root for the underdog, so you find yourself doing that. And so like Abhin said, it may not have the fairy tale ending that most movies have, but you don't feel too bad about it, and it does end on a hopeful note. So again, it's not like the movie leaves you with a sad feeling. It kind of lifts you up right at the end and leaves you with a very nice smile on your face. So unfortunately, it doesn't fall in our years of SRK getting to where he was. But yeah, this is still stands to be our favorite SRK movie. The other SRK movie set in Goa, diametrically opposite in tone, in story, in the likability of Shahrukh Khan's character as well, is 2000's Josh. We don't want to spend too much time on it. Just a quick note, but yeah, I mean, him playing Maxi Diaz, I don't know how you pronounce it, but in Josh is a completely different turn than Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na. Have you watched? I think Josh also has that same Mela wala aggro energy in it. Everyone's like
Josh, I think is West Side Story, right? That's really what the movie is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same. It's two warring gangs.
Seaside Story.
Yeah, and there's also and I think it's directed by Mansoor Khan, who did Akele Hum Akele Tum, and a big director in the 90s. But yeah, it was a pretty bad flop. Had some
Indian Crema versus Crema.
Yeah, Indian Crema versus Crema. No, Akela Hum Akela Tum was a big hit, but Josh was a pretty bad flop.
Oh, okay. Right.
Akela Hum Akela Tum was, it's also a very regressive Indian Crema versus Crema, but I think, that's for another episode. we're going to talk about a few regressive films in this podcast, and unfortunately, they were on Shahrukh Khan's. They were like reasons for some of Shahrukh Khan's biggest hits. But I think it's time we quickly shifted over to 97's. I mean, the start of when this all began. So I think we'll start with Yes, Boss.
Yes, boss.
Oh, wow, well done.
Yeah.
So before, I mean, Yes, Boss is a remake of one of my favorite movies as well as one of Rohit's favorite movies, Jack Lemmon's and Billy Wilder's The Apartment. Obviously, twisted for Indian sentiments. So I'll let you take lead on this. Go, my son.
So when I watched this growing up, I didn't know that it was an Apartment remake, because obviously I watched Apartment a lot later, probably in the last 5-6 years ago. But I watched Yes Boss while growing up, so I grew up on it. And even without that context, I really enjoyed the movie. Again, like I mentioned, another movie where the dynamic puts SRK's Rahul as a massive underdog. Quick side note here, I think this is the first movie in the 97 to 2001 period where he has Rahul. Dar is the first Rahul where the whole stereotype or archetype of SRK began. But yeah, so he plays Rahul Joshi in this movie. And very briefly, the plot outline is that he has a boss who is shown to be a sort of philanderer, and he's going out with this model played by Juhi Chawla, whom SRK also secretly grows to like. But obviously, because she's involved with his boss, he can't say anything. His boss, obviously played by Aditya Pancholi, is very manipulative and generally not a very nice guy. So while a part of him wants to kind of rescue Juhi Chawla from his boss, he also doesn't want to lose his job. So he has to kind of balance that both. Eventually, obviously, he has to pick one side, which he does, and that leads to typical Hindi melodramatic consequences. There's like a huge fight at the end with like an aquarium, a fish tank breaking open, water all over the floor. I remember that, which I definitely, when I watched Apartment, I was like, this and all was not there in the original. Where you're supposed to bring it from. The first part of the plot that I mentioned is pretty much very roughly what Apartment is also about. The last bit of the movie is all Bollywood. But yeah, again, great songs, great performances, very, very enjoyable, feel-good movie as well.
So yeah, I really enjoyed Shah Rukh Khan in this movie. I don't remember a lot of Yes Boss, but again, there are elements to it where it's like I remember the climax because him and Aditya Pancholi have this massive face-off, and for a very long time, but Shah Rukh Khan always used to end up climaxes all bloody, and he says, "I don't need you. I don't need your swanky office and some bullshit."
I mean, that is the bloodiest resignation in history. Just put in your papers, dude. Drop an email. Why do you have to punch your boss and like bleed all over?
So here's a fun fact. In 97, when it came out, it was the 14th highest grossing movie of the year. The highest grossing movie of the year was Dil To Pagal Hai, that also stars Shah Rukh Khan. The 5th highest grossing movie of the year was Pardes. The 9th highest grossing movie of the year was Koila, which also starred Shah Rukh Khan.
Yuck, Koila made more money than Yes Boss. I feel dirty after finding that out.
Oh, you know what? Koila ruined... so I think I will talk about Koila for like 2 minutes because Koila ruined Black Panther for me.
I want to know how.
So, okay, spoilers for Black Panther, right? So there's that whole sequence of Black Panther is...
Sorry. Imagine people coming in to listen to the SRK episode and out of the blue, sorry, what? Spoilers for Black Panther?
So, everyone is raving about Black Panther and rightly so. So Koila is directed by Rakesh Roshan, stars Shah Rukh Khan, Madhuri Dixit, Amrish Puri. In this movie, Shah Rukh Khan plays a dumb character. Like he can't speak because as a child, he'd accidentally swallowed
I thought you meant like Forrest Gump, but okay.
Yeah, he swallowed coals, so he lost his ability to talk. Like he was...
There's a hardcore origin story, dude.
Yeah, he was made to swallow, but now, and because of that, and his parents were killed, and he was made to swallow coals, and Amrish Puri rescued him and ultimately gave him a job as his house help or something along those lines. And Madhuri Dixit is brought in as she's duped and made to think she's marrying Shah Rukh Khan, but in turn is being brought in to be Amrish Puri's mistress.
Oh, okay.
So, but then Shahrukh Khan and him and this one, they fall in love and they try to run away, and that ensues a manhunt for the two. And there's this whole sequence where they track them down in a forest. Like there's a weird Rambo-like sequence where they're setting up traps and all his men are getting caught in the jungle. And then they take Madhuri Dixit back, and they put her in like a brothel to show her that to punish her or something. And they slice Shah Rukh Khan's throat and push him off a cliff. And then he's found by a few people in the woods who nurse him back to health, and then they fix his vocal cords and he gets his voice back.
Wow.
So when I was watching
in the woods.
Yeah, some like family in the woods find him and they like nurse him back to health.
Like Leelavati, Nanavati hospital, go fuck yourself. I'm going to go to the woods and get my voice back.
They find him in the trees somewhere or something along those lines. So I'm watching Black Panther and they kick T'Challa off the cliff, and like they beat him and they kick him off the cliff. And he's found by like by the tribe who live up in the mountains, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, holy shit, this is Koila. And then somebody behind me goes, oh fuck yeah, dude. And I had to turn back. I'm like, right? He's like, yeah. One of my most funniest movie interactions ever. And
so he lost his voice as a kid, right?
Yeah. Oh, but here's the twist.
Like,
the twist is his father is working with Amrish Puri in a mine, and his father finds a huge diamond, and he says, "Oh, I'm going to be rich. And he tells Amrish Puri, like, "Those dekho, like now my family can I can send my children to school and all of that." And then his mother and father celebrating, and then they're shot. And as
Amrish Puri goes all Temple of Doom on them.
No, I know it's just like by a bunch of dacoits, and that's when. And this scene is shown earlier on in the movie, and as young Shah Rukh Khan is complaining, somebody grabs him by the back and puts coals in his mouth. But now it cuts back, and it's actually Amrish Puri who put the coals in his mouth.
No, so he's got coals in his mouth stuff as a kid, so he's lost his voice. Which I don't even know how that works, but okay.
Like, you know the song that Hosh na khud kai josh na dekhne wala?
Yeah.
It's actually Johnny Lever singing, but Shah Rukh Khan lip syncing. That's how it's made.
This sounds convoluted AF.
Yeah, it's a very...
I don't know. It's going to make into the episode.
I don't know. I am just like, I am putting, but generally, like, long story short, there's a lot of Koila in Black Panther, and which I thought, I was like, oh, this movie is Bollywood AF. And then in the moment they introduced that train plot point, I'm like, oh, he's about to Raz Al Ghul Killmonger in the final act of the film, because they have a whole...
Black Panther is a pretty masala Bollywood film.
There is a very nice underlying theme in Black Panther which talks about how Wakanda essentially keeps its resources for itself while not helping the black population who have been exploited generally by the white man for generations. And that's what Killmonger's thing is.
It's hard to completely root against him because he's not
that's his ego. He's like, I see my brothers being like have been put in chains and just been taken advantage of, and here you are sitting on massive amounts of resources, refusing to lift a finger. Very, very heavy themes, but also if you grew up watching Bollywood movies, it is a very Bollywoodish. It's a very Bollywood centric kind of film.
Yeah. So from Yes Boss, moving on to Pardes. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Just a quick note, because I don't think either of us really liked the movie all that much. It is very regressive, like you said when you were discussing before the episode. And also, I generally don't like Subhash Ghai movies because, Subhash Ghai movies have more masala than Meghna's Biryani, man. Like, it's just endless. Sorry, little Bangalore specific reference there.
That's
for
right.
the listeners. But yeah, it's just... You're too far away from reality in his movies. It's ridiculous.
I think around this time, Subhash Ghai is starting to like slowly like lose his charm, because I think he had Tal after this, and Tal was a bigger hit. Probably the biggest hit.
Tal is, Again, very melodramatic, but it's a nice, entertaining movie. The music is outstanding.
Is beautiful, and I think that was his, like, he put everything he had into it. Pardes is just aggressive as fuck. It just caters to every horrible, like, patriarchal situation, like sentiment that Indian households have, and it's just, oh, you're supposed to be this Sati Savitri kind of person, otherwise you're considered a horrible human being. Yeah.
Does Pardes have Amrish Puri in it? No.
Yeah, it does. He's the Ye Mera India song is from there.
Oh yeah, it is him, right? So then in my head canon now, Pardes is, so Amrish Puri's character in DDLJ, I think Pardes is that guy's Vedri, the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because of all of the regressive patriarchy and like.
I feel this episode is now descended into us shitting on 90s Bollywood films starring Shahrukh Khan, as opposed to us like giving the man
like fuck Amrish Puri.
Yeah, especially like not giving the man his comeuppance. Like, look, let's be honest here. Shahrukh Khan picked a really, like, yes boss, excellent performance. Helped by, I think this was the time Abhijit also kind of became his voice in films. Koala, action packed, like it's a proper entertainer. Also a little over the top in certain places, but a lot of fun. With Pardes, has that. Oh yeah, of course we have to talk about how Anu Malik rips off the Beatles for Pardes.
Oh man.
And like, which,
how blatant can you be? He literally just picked the lines and he sang it. Like zero effort.
I'm surprised, like, the Beatles are ferociously protective about their music. I'm surprised the lawsuit still hasn't come their way.
I think that's enough for Pardes.
Yeah, let's just move on. The less we talk about Pardes, the better. Dil To Pagal Hai, the biggest hit of 1997. Sari Raat Jaga. I mean,
you know what that was about?
Oh God, yeah, dude, it just struck me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's alone at home. Sari raat jagata hai dil. Yeah, dude, sure, dil only. Again, just to reiterate, these movies made money, okay? And like, we're not here to make fun of SRK. I don't know why this is turning out the way it is.
You know what? Honestly, I thought like this would like Shahrukh Khan would listen to this and be like, oh, I'll interview these guys. They sound smart. Instead, we're just shitting on everything he did.
Is this episode your wet dream? Why will Shahrukh Khan interview us?
No, I mean, we'll interview him. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't think this podcast is going to like dent his image or his bank balance or his heritage in any way. So it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. See, what I remember, the one thing I really remember about Dil To Pagal Hai was when they introduced the cast. It's Madhuri spins and she turns. It's like little spotlights for the promo, and then it starts off with Dil To Pagal, and Shahrukh Khan turns, and this was the first time he really started to make use of the whole spread his arms out nonsense that was made famous by DDLJ. And then I think it's him, Madhuri, and Karishma Kapoor, right? So him and Karishma Kapoor run a dance studio, and Madhuri. Yeah. Help me piece this.
Careers in the movie are big. I don't know what people do in that movie.
But then there's
he has like a fancy. He has that smart car, no, that small car without a roof. He's getting a nice house with like a lawn. What is he doing for money, man?
My favorite performance in that movie is none of the three leads. It's Akshay Kumar.
Yes.
But do you remember the core plot of this film?
Okay. Yeah, if you explain the plot in its bare bones, it sounds insane.
Okay, let's do it.
So let me try. Shahrukh and Karishma's characters run a dance studio. Shahrukh randomly comes across Madhuri Dixit dancing in a separate sound stage in the same studio complex.
Yes.
And he decides, I'm going to stalk this girl.
Oh my God.
And he proceeds to stalk the fuck out of her. And eventually convinces her in worrying fashion to work with them on this vague play or whatever. They have this performance. Nobody, like, there are no specifics of the performance. We are working towards this. हम show कर रहे हैं. कहाँ पे? Who is paying for this show? Show कर रहे हैं. So please join us. And they start dancing. Yeah, so the rest of the movie is then like a love triangle with Karishma Kapoor vying for SRK's attention, who is in turn besotted with his stalker victim, who is in turn betrothed to Akshay Kumar. So it's like a human centipede of relationships. This movie. Oh my god, I never thought I would call Dil To Pagal the human centipede of relationships. But now that you think of it, you know that's what it is.
Oh my god.
And the movie culminates in a final dance performance. And obviously, he has to make a decision, and everyone has to kind of end up happily ever after together. I don't know, like Karishma Kapoor and Akshay Kumar, do they end up together?
Yeah, they end
do,
up
right?
together. Yeah, and backstage, they're like, they introduced, and then they're just like, oh. And then there's
Yeah,
like a
this is
bit
like
of a...
Bollywood introducing Indians to the concept of a rebound, I think. So,
Yeah. It's like, don't worry.
but yeah, the movie obviously, I mean, jokes apart, the movie obviously has its moments. I especially love the dance of envy between Karishma and Madhuri. Very, very nice, well choreographed. You can the energy that scene emanates, you feel that energy come out of the screen. And
Karishma Kapoor is really good in this movie.
Yeah, she's really good. Probably her best performance, at least whatever, what little of her I've seen. Her best performance, according to me. Yeah, again, very enjoyable, a lot of great moments.
Yeah, but Karishma Kapoor was so good in this movie that she ended up getting a national award for her performance in the
Deserved.
film. Yeah, deserved. She carries that film for
actually,
major parts.
Also, and she is probably for me the bigger star of the movie than anybody else.
Yeah, like it's her coming to terms with her feelings, and she is the more what do you call the character you root for most for in this movie.
100%.
Yeah, like it's sad that she doesn't end up with Shahrukh, but yeah, sure.
Like, what is Madhuri Dixit's personality in this movie? She wears white and she's stalked. That's it.
Yeah. Speaking of movies that like Shah Rukh Khan's like stalking, do you want to talk about Dar for a hot minute?
We can. I mean, yeah.
Because
how can you not talk about Shah Rukh and stalking and not mention
that? Yeah, because I think they kind of typecast him in this role for a bit. Where Bazigar, there was the whole revenge aspect, but with Dar he became this crazy stalker, and Anjan also he became a crazy stalker.
Yeah. Isn't Dar Indian Cape Fear? But
yeah,
it is in a way.
In a way, but it's more like
the ending is definitely Cape Fear. It's on a boat, right?
Yeah, Dar I think was probably his best performance in the early 90s, just before. Kabhi Kabhi Na, he's a lot more. It's like he's lovable, but Dar he really gets to flex his acting chops. And the thing I like about Shah Rukh is when he gets to flex his acting chops, he's good. He's not a bad actor by any chance. Like if you look at Chak De India, which I think was his last great performance, the whole 70-minute speech is excellent viewing. It's like you as in the theater are ready to run through a brick wall for him after he's done giving it.
Dude, I was like padding up at home and all. Tell me, want me to be goalie? I'll come. Just say.
Khuda bhi wapas nahi le sakta. It was just great. Like when he does it, he really does it. And maybe like the current years, the latest days where he's made bank. He's set for the next 3 generations are good. Because as much as he's he's the King Khan and he has the persona, he's an extremely smart businessman. And
exactly.
Yeah, so who has picked up the rights to all the remakes of the 90s Bollywood hits for the next 15 years. He owns all of them, or like a majority of them. He also is invested heavily, like in I assume in real estate in and across Bombay. He owns an IPL team that was one of the first to turn profit as opposed to the others. He mentioned when the IPL was launched, he mentioned that for the next couple of years we will all lose money, but him and Joey Chawla have like really created one of the first few profitable IPL teams. Just genuinely seems like a smart guy, and and his approach of like, if you've noticed, he just tends to stay out of controversy. because
except for that, the Wankhede, I think that's the only major controversy he's been in. And whatever the feud with Bhai.
Yeah,
that he's been squeaky clean.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of Shahrukh Khan and Preeti Zinta both being IPL owners, they were also together in a '98 film, which I think was Shahrukh's
what
most.
We should talk about next.
Yeah, which I think we should, because it was also probably his biggest shift in terms of roles. Or like he picked up a topic that was quite sensitive, and Mani Ratnam at this point was handling topics on insurgencies, on because Dil Se is based, which the movie we're talking about is based on the insurgency in the Northeast, Bombay, Roja. Yeah, so like Mani Ratnam didn't shy away from picking up topics that were controversial. Dil Se there is a love story. There is a guy who's obviously very smitten by this girl, but that girl has her own what do you call is on her own wall. What?
You know what he's doing?
He's stalking her.
Yeah.
Well, he's stalking some. Fine, Shahrukh Khan is stalking someone who's on a warpath to kill the president, and a bunch of people.
That is Dil Se. That should be on the poster. Stalking someone who's on the warpath to kill the president. But yeah, jokes apart, yes.
He plays a very foolish character where like he's so in love with this person and he's just trying to convince her. And till the very end of the film, I don't think she loves him. He like all the he plays a journalist or he works for All India Radio, ends up going to Silchar, sees this girl, and then that begins this whole journey that he goes on. He gets caught up in in a case of mistaken identity. They think he's helping the insurgents, but really not. And ultimately it ends with both of them blowing them. Like he hugs her, and then the vest she's wearing blows up and it kills them both in the process. This was also Preeti Zinta's debut. And she plays somebody from Kerala, which now makes sense as to why that song is in the film.
Hence those random lyrics. Not random, sorry. But
that it's a very very random segment like at the time as to why it exists in the film. I didn't know that Arvind Swamy dubbed Shah Rukh Khan's dialogues for the Tamil version.
No, and like you said, props to Mani Ratnam for tackling such a subject. So, and it's a very nuanced take that he's shown in the movie. Again, it reminded me of Heather. Complicated issue. It's really hard to say who's right or wrong, but you try and be as dispassionate. And also for SRK, like you mentioned, it is a departure from the kind of roles he was doing around that time, which were giving him the commercial success, all of the commercial success. And I mean, I have to credit him for it. You need guts to kind of take that call when you're riding that wave of success. You're not getting film roles, or you're not what you once were. It's a lot of people have taken roles which have kind of brought them back into consciousness, but to take that risk when you're every movie you do can be the next biggest movie in Bollywood. To take a departure from this, it's something like what for me the other parallel would be Jim Carrey deciding to do maybe a Truman Show or like an Eternal Sunshine. Very out of stereotype for the actor, but I think whatever little movie whatever I've watched, I don't remember it very well. He's again one of those roles it's a more sobered, subdued approach he's taken, and it's worked out really well for him. That was Dil Se.
Yeah, finally we're a significant way into the pod, and I'm surprised. I thought this would have come up a lot earlier, but this was basically the cornerstone of where things switched for Shah Rukh Khan. Right, this was when Kuch Hota Hai hit theaters. For 2 years, he was untouchable. It was a role that appealed to every, to nearly every strata of society, or just in terms of like every age group, because college people connected with it, like married people connected with it, kids connected with it. There was something about that film that somehow took the concept of DDLJ. It was the same two leads as DDLJ that they put together, mixed in a bit of Rani Mukherjee, who was also on the rise at the time, Salman Khan, who was already a bigger star, and just like he put and Karan Johar was what, 29 to 30 when he made that movie. it isn't a path-breaking movie, but it's also a very rewatchable film. I have not watched the movie in years because
Yeah,
spent a major chunk of my childhood watching it on cable television.
pretty much.
But yeah, so it's even then you can always associate, like there are lines in the film, there are songs in the film. There's a great Altaf Raja uh, tribute where during the talent show just before they sing Koi Mil Gaya. Like little things here and there. And of course, this again, not as much as, I mean, I'm not going to say not as much, but it's still kind of, oh, my wife died, so now I'm going to go marry my best friend who I ghost friend zone throughout college, and
Yeah.
now she's instantly attractive because she's got long hair and wears a sari. So and is singing bhajans in a kids camp somewhere. It's just
We don't know. Looks like
yeah.
Panchgani, but we don't know. But yeah, I think this movie is the Rahulest Rahul that ever Rahuled. I think SRK
Yes.
is peak Rahul in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Again, nothing extraordinarily different about the movie. It is run by numbers, Bollywood. I think this is more a rom-com, I would say. There is
Yeah.
drama, but it's more comedy than drama. And the good part is, I think one thing which this movie does, which DDLJ does not, is sustain that comedy throughout the movie. There's stuff happening that keeps you entertained throughout the movie. You know what is going to happen, and but you still enjoy the ride for the places it takes you.
Do we say most likable Salman Khan role ever?
I guess.
I mean,
depends on how much you like Salman Khan.
No, as in like his role, like his character in the film. He's one of the most likable characters because he is not a bad guy. He's actually a much better person than.
Is he also Aman in this? He must be Aman. Aman Mehra.
Nice. Oh, I just noticed something. Shahrukh Khan was not only the lead, one of the lead in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, he was also the action director.
What? What action did he direct? I remember the basketball scene. So clearly now we know whom to blame. That horrendous display of ball, but
she's your best friend, yeah.
But she's your best friend, yeah. He's your best friend, yeah.
Very quotable film.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, I think
that was Kuch Hota Hai. I don't think we want to even talk so much because we're not really going to add much to the zeitgeist, which hasn't already been said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's sick of it at this point. Like, where he didn't think like he talks about it, right? He was on an episode of Coffee with Karan, and he says, "Which movie do you wish you weren't a part of?" And he says, without thinking twice, he says, "Kuch Kuch Hota Hai." And Karan Johar is holding the placard, just staring at him. And at that point, Kajol is like, "Give him the hamper, just give him the hamper." See, for a very long time, their chemistry carried a lot of the films that they were in. I think she's also in Duplicate, which is another film that came out in 1998. No, it's Juhi Chawla and...
it's Juhi Chawla, I think.
No, but there are two leads.
Two women.
Yeah.
Because of two.
Yeah. Is it? No, it's Sonali Bendre, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Juhi Chawla and Sonali Bendre. Duplicate was a film I was watching the other day, has not aged well. So there's like an evil version, and then there is, what do you call it? And then there's the simpleton version, much like Dawn, but I think the new Dawn did it better.
I mean, it was just the old Dawn.
With just one twist in the end.
Anyways, so I think anything more to add on Kuch Kuch Hota Hai? I'm done.
I think it's one of Bollywood's legacy films, and I think that's what Shahrukh Khan has. He has a lot of legacy films off the top of your head, quote films that Shahrukh has been that have been like tentpole films in the last 15 to 20 years. You would say Kuch Hota Hai, you would say Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, you would say DDLJ. I don't think you would say Dil To Pagal Hai. I don't think its legacy has sustained over that period of time, and that's not entirely.
Maybe half a rung lower than the rest, but
possibly, yeah.
It's there, yeah.
But yeah, I think Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is kind of was his melodramatic role. But I think my favorite film from that period in time was Baadshah, because he was unabashedly having a lot of fun in that movie. Yeah, it is a bastardized remake of Nick of Time, starring Johnny Depp, which is a movie I really enjoy. But like he plays this weird Inspector Gadget-ish kind of detective that's looking for a girl. Well, it's it's a fun movie. There's not a lot of melodrama attached to it. It's just you go in. It was also a massive hit, contributed to his nickname, or rather, that's where the whole the King Khan moniker comes from, because that's what the media started to run with. And he had a massive hit in '98. He had two massive hits in '90. I mean, I wouldn't say massive, but they'll say did well overseas as opposed to doing well in India. Kush Gurate was a big hit. In '99, he had. In '99, he had Baadshah. He had Dil To Pagal in '97. So he was consistently being in the public eye for a very long time. By the time he got to, I'd say, the 2000s, he tried to get a little experimental, launched his own movie studio called Dreams, him and Juhi Chawla, and I don't and that's what, and they produced Fir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani, which didn't do too well. And
not a very fun movie either.
Yeah, he also had 1 2 Ka 4 in the middle somewhere, which was an okay film. It had one.
I think 1 2 Ka 4's outstanding characteristic was that it was. The existence is the quintessential characteristic of 1 2 Ka 4.
Yeah, pretty much.
But quick word on Baadshah. I think, like you said, fun movie. Not something you can, you don't have to get too much into the details. Like, just go with the ride. And I think it had better than any. It was better than it had any right to be. Like on script or on paper, it doesn't look like the movie makes a lot of sense, but somehow it works, and it's a fun ride. Right up to the Rush Hour rip-off ending that they have right at the end.
But and then I think from then he moved, and at this time Amitabh Bachchan was coming back into the public eye, because KBC just became, like, he just started hosting KBC, and KBC had become a national hit, and he was slowly getting back into films. He had a horrible the 90s were really bad for Amitabh Bachchan. The 2000s were good for him. He kind of revitalized his career a little bit. Yeah, but this one, and it kind of began with KBC and then Mohabbatein, which was a huge hit, but not a very good film. So it was Mohabbatein was Aditya Chopra's return to directing after DDLJ. He'd been out of the limelight for about 5 years, and this was his next big project, which is kind of like an Indian take on Dead Poets Society. There's a school run by a very strict headmaster, and then in comes this music teacher who teaches them about love and just like about how it
they're not doing a good job. Teach them music, man, first before getting to love. And by the way, what does the school teach? So throughout the movie, it is never alluded to, like, what grade of education does this school dole out? Because so the school is called Gurukul. So right off the bat, if you had said Gurukul senior secondary high school, or Gurukul PU college, or Gurukul engineering college, you at least know what they teach. So even the three leads, the sub leads that Shahrukh kind of tries to influence into falling in love with the three girls in the movie, they seem to be of indeterminate age. We don't know if they're 15 or 19 or 31. Like,
we have to talk about Gurukul, the leads, because it's almost like a little quiz. Let's see who guesses the most. So it's Jugal Hansraj,
Jimmy Shergill, Uday Chopra,
Shamita
Shetty, Kim Sharma, and Preeti
Jangiani. So it wasn't. So Jugal Hansraj, obviously, child superstar. With Masoom. Uday Chopra's debut. Shamita Shetty's debut. Kim Sharma, it's also her debut, or maybe she had something before, but Preeti Jangiani and her were like fairly new faces. What could possibly have gone wrong? Because that's your launch pad. And of course, let's not forget. I don't know why Shahrukh Khan likes dead love interests, but they're apparently around. So
Yeah,
there is.
If you fall in love with Shahrukh Khan, start counting your days, man.
Mortality.
Watch the road twice before you cross.
Yeah, Shahrukh Khan for Light Yagami's role in Death Note. Let's make it happen. So speaking of horrible, Aishwarya Rai, she's like again like this ghost-like figure floating around on campus.
Everyone in the movie is a ghost-like figure. Everyone's wearing white.
What are the songs? Humko Hami Se Chura Lo, which is Save Me From Myself. Oh God, this is really forward.
The song sounds like some Ponzi scheme.
But it has that now very memorable scene of him playing the dole in the climax of the movie.
And he also plays he's a violin teacher, right?
Violin teacher, but
he's string. What a boss, dude.
Boss, it's like the Shivamani eat your heart out. So like he's pulling at violin strings, but also pulling.
I don't think there's a single scene. I don't think there's a single scene of him in the movie teaching them music.
No, there is, right? He's like he's in that little gazebo thing.
And then, what music class takes place in the outdoors? How is that good for timbre? For like echo resonance? Fucking Bollywood logic, dude. Teaching music in the outdoors. Jackass.
They gave him glasses and a sweater.
Yeah.
Like he's got like a cardigan going. I need to watch more of it, dude. I don't remember much of it.
Yeah.
He also had Ashoka this year, or Ahsoka.
He did. Ahsoka. Also Mani Ratnam, right?
No, Santosh Sivan.
No, Santosh Sivan. Sorry. Yeah, Santosh Sivan.
I think Santosh Sivan had come off the back of a movie called Little Terrorist or something. That was quite a big hit in the indie circle. And he got this really massive budget to make a biopic on Ashoka. And Shahrukh Khan is not bad in this movie. He's actually pretty good in this movie. And
there's nothing superficially wrong with the movie. They shouldn't have brought a love story angle into it, maybe.
Yeah.
Kaurav Ki. Isn't that her name? I remember. For some reason, I just remember Kareena Kapoor's character's name is Kaurav Ki. I think. I'm not sure. Like, her character was not necessary. His at least the story arc that is recorded in history is fascinating enough, right? You have a warmongering king who has a complete change of heart because of just one campaign in Kalinga and decides to... Which, again, is a very whitewashed version of history. What survives to us through his edicts and writings of people in his court are obviously going to glorify him.
Yeah.
What we know is the story of somebody who did a complete 180, but recent research has shown, things are not as black and white. He still continued to exercise, I wouldn't say terror, but where a heavy-handed approach was needed, he didn't hesitate from using force. So while he was undoubtedly somebody who spread the teachings of Buddha far and wide, was a proponent, it's not like he overnight became a saint. So it's a very conflicted, interesting, meaty character biography, which maybe a love story kind of did disservice to, in my opinion. That's probably the only complaint I had.
It flopped badly because I don't know. I think people were so not used to seeing him as this biopic actor, and for a while he didn't pick those kind of roles, and not till Chakte did he pick a role that wasn't next door lover boy kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. You're right. Maybe Ashoka was a bad experience for him in terms of trying to do something different.
Yeah, but no, I mean, of course, he had Dawn. How could I forget? He had Dawn, and he had Paheli, which also at some point Paheli is a nice film. I just don't think it was appreciated enough.
A nice film. It's probably not amazing. It's a nice one-time watch. But I think having been scarred from his experience in Ashoka, I think SRK took refuge in what is probably the apex of our 97 to 2001 journey.
Yeah.
Masala-est Karan Johar movie.
Yeah.
Obviously talking about Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, or K3G as we know it.
It came like, this was a movie that was like the Avengers Endgame of Parampara films.
Oh my god, yeah.
It was it was like fan service for the Indian 90s mentality. Oh my god, always respect your family. If you ever if you ever are in a situation, picture your family's faces and names, and you will get past them through. And also the reason as to why, I mean, now no one is standing in theaters, but also the reason as to why audiences have to stand up for the national anthem in movie theaters. For those of you who don't know, there is that one sequence where Kajol's son sings the national anthem in school, right? And so there was this one guy who was in the theater watching it, and he stood up, and the rest of the audience just sat down, like just didn't bother. And he went to court and said this is an insult upon the nation, and the Supreme Court agreed with him and said that every time the national anthem is played in movie theaters, the audience has to stand up or something along those lines. But yeah, K3G comes out, massive hit. I mean, relaunches. I mean, escalates Amitabh Bachchan's post KBC career. Shahrukh Khan and Hrithik Roshan are put together in the same movie. There's also that rivalry that's intensifying.
Yeah, literally, exactly right. Amitabh, Hrithik, and Shahrukh. Now, show me how this movie will flop. It's impossible.
That was the theatrical cut. Zack Snyder can eat his heart out. Karan Johar did it in 2001.
I know. OG Zack Snyder.
2001, An Indian Odyssey.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it should be called. 2001, An Indian Odyssey is what K3G should originally be called.
It's also like, it was actually more like Kabhi Kushi, lots of gum, because it was just it was people being sad all the time. And Kajol in her most infuriating role yet. As in, like Karan Johar said, listen, take it to the max. And this is my biggest problem with the film. Not that like anything, obviously it's like there are slightly, it may not have aged, definitely hasn't aged well.
There's a lot of fat shaming in the movie, which definitely hasn't aged well.
But during the when Karan Johar was writing the script, did he not once think back and step back and think, if I nickname my character Pooh?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Was nobody going to like make the connection between shit and Pooh? Because I can't watch the movie without thinking.
They're trying to make Pooh glamorous. They're like, Pooh, I don't know, it's shit.
My favorite line of the movie is Pooh Bani Parvati, which is like possibly the funniest line in the
like Asu Bane Angare, Pooh Bani Parvati. No, and quick aside for those who may not know, my wife's name is Poonam, and so obviously because of K3G, she has fought her entire life to not be nicknamed Pooh. It's like anything but that.
I just connected. Oh my god!
Yeah, for us at home, it hits a lot closer to home here.
So K3G happens, massive blockbuster. Shahrukh Khan is. What do you call it? He's once again back in the public conscious, because I think he had a bit of a lull in 2001, kind of just after when Fir Bhi Dil Hindustani flopped, Ashoka flopped, and between 97 to 2000, that crest that he was on took a bit of a hit. And this was where he'd also signed up for Devdas. Holy fuck! And because this was again three people who were also at the top of their game, right? You had Madhuri Dixit, you had Aishwarya Rai, who had come off a monster Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam. You had Shahrukh Khan, obviously, and you had, as I mentioned, Madhuri Dixit, and directed by Sanjay Leela Bhansali, who was now like a household name because of his success with Hum Dil De. So Devdas happens, and generally is a bit of a hit. I think it was one of the last few films Bharat Shah produced before like he got caught up in some weird shit. And Shahrukh tends to take this role a bit over the top. I feel like if he plays an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic who's in love with somebody he's unable to like marry, and it is not my favorite Shahrukh performance out, not by a long stretch.
Yeah, and the other issue, at the end of the day, Devdas is misery porn. It's just miserable. The movie is just sad from start to finish. There is no redemption. There is no highlight. Like, what is the point of the story? Is fine. It showcases how the class system maybe comes in the way of love, and from then on, it is just alcohol, death. That's pretty much it. So it's not a fun experience. Maybe it's an essential story to tell. I don't know. And Shahrukh's performance doesn't make the experience better in any way.
I
It's
mean,
over the top. It's at points he's shaking like while he's delivering dialogue. I don't know what he's doing. So yeah, on the whole, kind of a, I don't know. In a way, for our episode, it's ending on a bit of a whimper note.
no, I think we can end it better. As much as Devdas is around, I have a very fun story to like. Maybe it won't take more than a couple of minutes.
Yes.
So
yes.
I moved to New York 3 years ago, and a large part of me growing up in Bangalore, right, like the allure of New York came from one particular movie, which
Of
was
course.
Kalonao.
Kalonao.
And Kalonao for a very long time was my feel-good Shahrukh Khan movie to go to. Like, I mean, before Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na was available on multiple platforms, we own physical copies of Kalona, we own physical copies of K3G, Kuch Hota Hai So On. But Kalona was the one that was most relatable because it felt like people you know generally that weren't so far up their own ass. So the thing with Kalona, when I first moved in, I had a certain set of friends who were trying to piece together places where this film is shot.
Of course, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm sure Abhin's done this.
Oh yeah, there's a picture of me in the Hoboken station holding like a piece of paper and like pretending to be, you know, that diary scene from Kalona where he's like, where he's like just talking about his feelings for her. But there's me doing something similar. Then a friend and I are like on near Brooklyn Bridge. I am holding the railing and I'm like, Naina, main tujhse pyar nahi karta. and he's pretending to cry. And so we've done all kinds of stupid shit, right? Because it's a very fun like film, but oh my god, Shahrukh Khan's performance in this, like, I mean, I don't know what was so nice. Obviously, this is like a loose remake of Anand. It's kind of what this movie is about, right? Yeah. For large periods of the film, that movie is very entertaining. Like Saif, I think, is really nice in that movie. And it is. If I were to watch if I pick any of the three, which are the three, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, and Kalono, I will pick Kalono out of all three.
Yeah,
because
me too.
Obviously there's a big dollop of melodrama attached to it, but possibly like the most fun to have out of those three films.
Yeah, but speaking of the melodrama bit, the amount of scenery that Shahrukh chews in that movie, by the third or fourth time where he's crying and saying something to Preeti Zinta, part of it is just like, just die already, dude. Like, end my misery. The last half an hour, I think the fun part, the humor part of it is also kind of, it's dispensed with. It's just, it's a sad love story, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's quite like it goes and like after Mahi Ve, it's one like it's one straight elevator down to sadness. Actually, in Mahi Ve, he suffers a heart attack. Sorry, guys. It's a 20-year-old film. Like, but then his career kind of meandered. I think to conclude, possibly like his last most acceptable hit was this. He had Om Shanti Om in 2007, which I personally love. It is a remake of Karz, but ever since, I don't quite recall a Shah Rukh Khan film I've really enjoyed since Om Shanti Om. I mean, Om Shanti Om was probably the most self-referential film he's been in a very long time. I liked Fan that came out in 2016. It was his version of Face Off. He took major chances with that film. He also did like his own version of Scarface and Rais, which is an enjoyable film. There's not much. There's not like he keeps it. He caters to like the Indian audience because the Indian audience is vast and myriad, right? So there hasn't been like as much as he's been around in the public conscious for so long. I don't think he will have that era of dominance like he did. Maybe it's time.
I don't think so.
Maybe it's time he picks his films like and he takes a little more like slightly older roles, because I'm kind of fed up of having to see Bollywood shoehorn people, actors who with actresses who are 30, 40 years younger than them. Pick films that don't focus so heavily on the love aspect. Maybe pick one with actresses who are slightly older, like who we can understand if there's a dynamic, if there's a dynamic that exists. This is just like it's like forcing an issue that nobody's having fun with. So I think that being said, we'll quickly conclude on out of the four films we like the era we've discussed. Favorite Shahrukh Khan performance, favorite Shahrukh Khan movie. They don't have to be the same.
Favorite Shahrukh Khan performance, I'd say Yes Boss.
Yeah.
Again, in that period for me, most likable role, fun, all of that. Favorite Shahrukh Khan movie, it's very close, but narrowly edging out, I would say Baadshah, because the movie is just so fun from start to finish. You're just laughing, and yeah, I think pretty much that. Favorite role, Yes Boss. Favorite movie, Baadshah.
I can't argue with that. Yes Boss is one of my favorite Shahrukh Khan movies ever, and also one of my favorite Shahrukh Khan performances. Maybe I'll pick them both, actor performance and film. Both are Yes Boss. I feel he's at his most likable, and generally he plays a character that you can really root for. Maybe my apartment bias is showing here, but I feel that's that is possibly the most connected I've been with his character in those couple of years.
No, I think the more important question is in those set of movies, which one is the most human centipede of love relationships? I think I can't look at Dil To Pagal Hai the same ever again.
Oh God.
Like while I was describing the plot, the phrase came in my mind, and I was like, you know what? That I'm going to say it myself. That's genius.
It's like, oh, by the way, I have to talk about this. So, How I Met Your Mother ran for 9 seasons, and it's basically kuch kuch hota hai. If you think about it, it is. I can see Rohit's mind as we're doing this on Zoom, and Rohit's mind just blew.
What the fuck?
Just think about it.
No, but then here Rahul and Anjali have dated and it didn't work out. Eventually he comes back to her.
Yeah, but ultimately he comes back to her because the mom dies. And the kids tell him, you've always loved Aunt Robin. You should go back to Aunt Robin.
Yeah, dude. Also here, the Salman Khan is very slutty.
Yes.
In Bunny Stimpson.
Yeah, he plays a real life. Salman Khan is playing the real one.
So slutty Salman.
No, it's Neil Patrick Harris playing Salman Khan, basically.
Yeah. So the two key takeaways from this episode for you guys. One is that Dil To Pagal Hai is the human centipede of love relationships, and Barney Stinson is slutty Salman.
No, Barney Stinson is Salman Khan. There's no such thing as slutty Salman. That's just.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end the episode on.
What a way to end the episode.
जिंदगी की सबसे बढ़िया हॉकी खेल गया तो ये 70 मिनट खुदा भी तुमसे वापस नहीं मांग सकता सुनो जियो खुश रहो मुस्कुराओ क्या कल वो ना हो सब रिश्तों के एहसास की जिम्मेदारी ये बोझ रिश्ते बना को 7:30 बजे सोमवार को इस सड़क पर सच्चे दिल से जो मांगा जाएगा वो मिलेगा हमारी जिंदगी में भी एंड तक सब कुछ ठीक ही हो जाता है हैप्पीज